Hey guys, welcome to this lecture where we start talking about moving, rotating, and scaling objects. Now I'm going to pick up where I left off on the last lecture with just the cube in the middle of the scene. And what we're going to do is we're going to start showing you how to modify this, where it's located, how big it is, things like that. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the manipulator that you'll see right here in the middle of this object. Now no matter what object you have up, if you select it, you should have this manipulator. And you can see you've got different arrows pointing out different directions, representing the direction that it will go if you're trying to manipulate it. So right now, I'll explain kind of how you can change this around, see what you see with this manipulator. Down here at the very bottom of the screen, these options right here are the manipulator, and the current one you have selected is what's showing. Now this manipulator is for transformation, so that means that if you click and drag any of these arrows, it's going to move this object along the direction that the arrow is pointing. So green is for the y-axis, red is for the x-axis, and then blue is for the z-axis, up and down. So again, you can use these if you're more comfortable using your mouse, getting around here and kind of clicking and dragging with your left button to move things around. It also works for rotating and scaling. So if you come down here and you're not under the transformation selection, but you're instead under the rotation selection, it will now change the manipulator into a rotation manipulator. So same thing, green is for the y-axis, so if you click and drag, it's going to rotate along the y-axis. Undo that with Command Z. Blue will spin it around the z-axis, up and down. And then X will, of course, go around the x-axis. And lastly, this one will allow you to scale in a direction. So this will allow you to scale along the X, the Y, and the Z. Okay. And again, I'm just hitting Command Z to undo that. It would probably be Control Z if you're on Windows. So that's pretty handy. You can always turn this off if you come over to the far left of these buttons and you click this little multicolored arrow button. It'll actually turn that off and hide it. So if you don't like where it is and you want to use keyboard shortcuts or something else instead, you can always turn that off there. So that's pretty much all you need to know about using your mouse to kind of manipulate things in 3D. Like I said, I really prefer to use the keyboard shortcuts because they speed you up. So let's go over how to do that with the keyboard now. So alongside moving around the 3D viewport with your mouse, I find that I use the move, rotate, and scale keyboard shortcuts the most. So let's talk about how to move this object around. The keyboard shortcut for that is G for global move. So if I hit G, it'll start moving this object around if I drag my mouse. Now you're going to stay in the move operation until you either hit escape, which will cancel it, or you left click, which will accept it. Okay, so I'm going to undo that. So I hit G, move it somewhere, left click. Okay. Now let's talk a little bit about modifications that you can do to kind of control how you move your object around. It would be really hard to try to do something accurate in 3D if you had to come in here and try to move something just by eyeballing it where you're at in the 3D viewport. So you can try to do it, put that somewhere else on that grid based on your view, and you're going to get mixed results. So what you're typically going to find is if you come in here and you want to be more accurate on how you move the object, you're going to modify how you move. So if you hit G, right now I'm in a freestyle move. Let's just say I wanted to keep it along that red line, the x-axis. What I could do is if I'm in the move tool by hitting G and I hit the letter X, now I can constrain that and it's only going to allow me to move that along the x-axis. So if I left click and accept, I'm done. Now let's say I do the same thing, I hit G and I only want to move along the y-axis. I just hit Y. So let's say I'm moving along the y-axis and I go, well, now I want to move along the z, so I change my mind. So I'm still in the move operation and moving around. If I hit the letter Z now, it's going to switch from moving across to up and down. And I can just constantly switch this around if I'm trying to figure out where I want to put that object. And it'll let me change it until I hit the left mouse button or escape. So that works with the move and it also works with the rotate and the scale. So let's go over that. Now, G is a little bit of a weird keyboard shortcut for move, I'll grant you that. But scale and rotate are the same as what you would probably guess that they are. Scale is S, so if I hit S, I can move my mouse around, it'll scale the cube up and down. And rotate is R, okay? So there you go. Now, the exact same manipulation tools that we were just talking about using with the X, Y, and Z can be used for all the other operations too. So if I'm scaling, and I don't want to scale the whole thing, but I just want to make it wider, I can hit S, and then I can hit Y, and now it's only going to scale along the Y axis. And just like before, if I change my mind and I want to go the other direction, I can hit the X key, now it's going to scale along the X axis. So you can probably guess that when we get in here and start modeling, this is really going to speed things up, because it will allow me to do everything for the keyboard right in the middle of an operation, and I'm not going to have to go in here by hand and do several things one after the other. You know, I can just do this really quickly. So we talked about the manipulator, the keyboard shortcuts, and how to manipulate some of those things using constraints. Let's talk about how to get more accurate. So if you're in here and you're moving, you may be able to move along the y-axis by hitting G and then Y. But how do I, make sure that I'm only going a certain distance? Well, if you look down to the bottom left-hand part of the screen right here, when I start moving, you'll see that the D stands for distance, and it'll tell you how far you're going. Well, it'd be nice if we could tell it a specific number. Well, you can. All you have to do is start typing in a number with the numbers on the top of your keyboard, and it'll go that far. So right now, we're not using inches or meters or anything like that. We're just using what are called blender units. And so when you first start a scene, each grid square represents one blender unit. So if I wanted to move one blender unit over from the middle to this grid line, I would hit G and then Y to go only this direction, and then I can hit 1. And as soon as I accept that, I'm right on top of that grid line. If I want to do that again, I can hit G, Y, and move over 2, I can hit 2. And you can see down here, it's types that actually won't let me get on there. You can see down the bottom left-hand part of the screen, I've typed in 2, and it's locked in. Let's say I change my mind and I want to go 5 instead. I can just backspace and type in the number 5. And now it's going to constrain me to the 5th grid over. So again, really handy. Left click will accept as always. And there you go. Now it's really handy to know too that that's going to work the exact same way for rotation and scale. So if I'm trying to rotate this 90 degrees or 45 degrees on an axis, let's say I'm trying to rotate it along the x-axis a certain number of degrees. If I type in 45, it's going to rotate at 45 degrees, enter, and there you go. It's done. I don't have to come over here and type it in here, although you can. Or you can, again, pull out your rotation manipulator and try to line that up. But it's not as accurate. I like to come in here, and usually I'm trying to rotate around a certain number of degrees. So if I'm building something and it needs to be that way, then I'll just type it in. So something else to know is you can always come over to the object properties, and instead of undoing all the time, you can come over here and just zero this back out, and it'll put it back the way it was. Okay? So remember that this is always here, and these options are going to help you when you start manipulating things like this. If you screw up and it's like way off to the side, or it's at a weird angle and off the screen and you can't find it, just know that if you come over here and select it in your outliner, you can zero all this stuff back out, and it's going to put the object back where it was and kind of reset it. Now, don't zero out your scale like I just did, because it'll actually make it occupy no space at all. That's why you couldn't see it. So make sure that you zero out your rotation or your location, but not your scale. Keep your scale at 1 all the way across. So that's about it for basic manipulation of objects, and we'll get into more advanced manipulation when we get into modeling. But in the next lecture, I'm going to show you kind of a hidden menu that will be really helpful when you're working on your scenes, and so we'll see you there.